Tianlangjun's arms were broken beyond repair, and Zhu Zilang was impaled against the stone wall. Master Wu Chen was supporting Wu Wang, whose head bled profusely. Mo Beijun had Shang Xinhua dangling in his hold, and Yue Qingyuan stood beside Shen Qingqiu. Only Luo Binghe stood directly opposite Xing Mo's position, his head lowered as he leisurely adjusted his sleeves. Luo Binghe, come here, Shen Qingqiu said solemnly. Luo Binghe shook his head once, only once, but very resolutely. You lied to me again, Shen Qingqiu said, dismayed. Luo Binghe's movements paused, and he asked, Shizun, I said I would help you against Tianlangjun. I can kill him for you right now and right away. So how can you say I lied to you? Tianlangjun smiled. Letting the enemy go to cover for one's own work. That was quite the move. But unfortunately, I'm not very useful, so in the end, he had to take action himself. Upon hearing the words, quote, letting the enemy go to cover for one's own work, unquote, Shen Qingqiu's heart became increasingly uneasy. Did Luo Binghe purposely give Xing Mo's sword to Tianlangjun? After all, Tianlangjun's Jew mushroom body had deteriorated faster with Xing Mo in his possession, so even if the sword was given to him, it couldn't have posed much of a threat to Luo Binghe. Perhaps Shen Qingqiu was too disoriented and allowed his thoughts to show on his face, because Luo Binghe said sorrowfully, Shizun, what are you thinking now? He did steal Xing Mo's sword. It's just that Xing Mo still recognizes me as its master. You said before that you would rather trust me and accept the consequences than not assume you can't trust me at all. Why do you again not trust me? I trusted you many times, Shen Qingqiu said slowly. Up until just now, I still trusted you. Is that so? Said Luo Binghe, his face twisted into a smile. But I don't dare trust Shizun anymore. That smile was incredibly uncanny. Shen Qingqiu sensed something was wrong, so he softened his expression and tone. What's gotten into you this time? The moment he softened, Luo Binghe suddenly stopped smiling. His appearance was full of sorrow and despair. Shizun, I've said this before. The times you're with them are really when you're happiest. To begin with, Shen Qingqiu had yet to figure out who, quote, them referred to. Luo Binghe slowly paced back and forth before the stone wall where Xing Mo's sword was embedded. He laughed in self-mockery. Every time I asked Shizun to leave with me, you never agreed, not even once. When you did come, it was because I demanded it by force, not because you were willing. But when they ask you to stay, you never hesitate. He looked at Shen Qingqiu. Shizun, you don't smile often. I love seeing you smile. But whenever I recall that you only smile like that when you're with them, he said very quietly, it hurts me very, very much. Shen Qingqiu finally understood. Quote, them referred to Changqiu Mountain. That day in the bamboo house, Liu Qingge had suddenly opened the windows to investigate, So it really had been because he'd sensed the hint of murderous intent Luo Binghe had let leak while loitering outside, as well as his aura of rage and despair. Instead of leaving, he'd stayed to hear the laughter within the bamboo house, as well as that single of agreement, and he'd engraved all of it within his heart. "That's why you're angry," said Shen Jingqiu. "Angry?" Luo Binghe darkly spat out 2 words. "I hate." Then, "I hate myself." His pace quickened with his irritation, his hands clasped behind his back. "I hate how I'm useless. I hate how I can never keep anyone, how no one has ever chosen me." Everyone in the cave was unable to make any sudden moves. Luo Binghe was currently maintaining Xingmo's energy supply, and nobody wanted him to suddenly lash out. "By doing this, you mean to force him to choose between the 2? Zhu Zilang asked. Luo Binghe paused and shook his head. "Choose between the 2? No, that's not it. I know that if he chooses, Shi Cun definitely won't pick me, so it's fine if he has no choice to make." A slight flush infused his stark white face, derived from a kind of strange excitement. "This time, I've learned my lesson. If Changqiu Mountain ceases to exist, everything will be fine, right? That way, Shi Cun will only have me." Master Wu Chen chanted sutras and pressed his palms together, saying "Amitofo." Then he said, "Benefactor Luo, you're possessed." Luo Binghe burst into loud and restrained laughter. "If you leave him no choice, then of course you can't be abandoned," Master Wu Chen continued. "But how you will deal with Peak Lord Shen's actions and behavior toward you afterward?" "Shi Cun, if Qingjing Peak is gone, I can build you another," Luo Binghe said gently. "It's fine if you resent me. It's fine if you hate me. I won't make any great demands. If you're unsatisfied, you can hit me, try to kill me. After all, I won't die. As long as you don't leave me." He spoke so earnestly. "Truly, I only have this one wish." Luo Binghe smiled was twisted, his pupils dilated, the blood-red irises rimming them periodically expanding and contracting. Xingmo's sword overflowed with purple light. It was impossible to tell if he was controlling the sword or if the sword was controlling him. As Shen Jingqiu observed Luo Binghe's disoriented, qi-deviated appearance, a bitter taste filled his mouth, and he couldn't bring himself to speak. "Other than Changqiu Mountain, this world has thousands of things that immortal Master Shen values," said Zhu Zilang. "Are you going to destroy all those as well?" "Yes," said Luo Binghe, smiling. "Why not?" He tilted his head, then suddenly exploded with rage. "Shut him up!" Mo Beijing heard these words, thought for a moment, and threw a punch at Zhu Zilang's face. Tianlangjun studied Luo Binghe, and pity flashed through his gaze. "Xingmo has already invaded his mind," he sighed. "He's gone mad." This was the one and only time since his first meeting with Luo Binghe that he looked something like a father. But Luo Binghe didn't notice at all, just nodded and smiled. Yes, I've gone mad. Upon hearing him admit to his lunacy, Shen Qingqiu's heart spasmed with a dull pain. Binghe, get away from that sword first, he said quietly. The further the better. As he gently coaxed him, he secretly placed a hand on Xiuya's hilt, the action concealed by his wide sleeve. Luo Binghe laughed. It's no use, Shizun. You don't need to do this. The nicer you are to me, the more afraid I'll become. As he spoke, his right hand made a slight upward gesture. In an instant, Xing Mo's purple qi overflowed. Zhuī Zilang spat out a mouthful of congested blood. The punch a moment ago had only shut him up for a little while. He calmly said, Pitiful. Pitiful? Luo Binghe muttered. That's right. I am pitiful. It'd be fine if it's out of pity too. Oh, Shizun, stay by my side just this once. Tears rolled down Luo Binghe's cheeks, and his pupils reddened as he gritted his teeth. Shizun, you've let go of me again and again. Always, anyone, anything. They all become a reason to abandon me, until sometimes you don't even need a reason. It's always like this. Suddenly, Shan Qinghua fell to the ground with a thud. Shen Qingqiu also unconsciously grabbed onto the stone wall. The entire ground started to shake violently. Michael Ridge's descent had sped up. He's gone mad, martial brother, Yue Qingyuan said mildly. How will you deal with this? Luo Binghe sneered and backed up 2 steps, then abruptly grabbed Xing Mo's hilt. The tremors became stronger and stronger. Looking out through the hole in the cave, one could see innumerable mountain peaks of different heights jutting through the rolling clouds. Shen Qingqiu was about to pull out Xiuya's sword when suddenly a blinding white light shone from beside him. Yue Qingyuan had drawn his sword first. The sword's howl ripped through the drifting snow and dark purple qi. Xuan Su's sword had been unsheathed. Mo Beijun looked like he'd never expected that a day would come where someone would send him flying. In a flash, he'd been thrown off of Michael Ridge, that expression still glued to his face. Shan Qinghua seemed frightened out of his wits. He snatched up a sword and rushed forward, but Shen Qingqiu quickly grabbed him. What are you doing? Shan Qinghua roared. Fuck! He can't fly! With that, he leapt down. Shen Qingqiu braved the gales and flurries of snow to peer down through the rupture. He just managed to see Shan Qinghua ride his sword and catching Mo Beijun, still 300 meters above the ice. After confirming he wouldn't fall to his death, Shen Qingqiu didn't even give himself the time to sign relief and quickly turned back around. Luo Binghe and Yue Qingyuan were already dueling. As expected, Luo Binghe's power was terrifying, but Shen Qingqiu hadn't expected a fully unsheathed Xuan Su's sword to be so powerful, capable of evenly matching a berserk Luo Binghe. Shen Qingqiu felt the fluctuating spiritual energy and demonic qi reverberate as they pressed on his eardrums and throat. He could tell that this cavern would soon collapse and rushed to the stone wall. He grabbed Xing Mo's sword barehanded and, with a forceful heave, yanked it out. Although he'd extracted the blade, Michael Ridge's descent didn't slow. Luo Binghe saw the situation and moved to seize the sword. Yue Qingyuan didn't give him the chance. Using the tip of Xuanzu's blade, he carved a dazzling trail visible to the naked eye, and an enormous barrier marked with complicated incantations and seals formed an invisible cage, trapping Luo Binghe within. Seeing that Chen Qingqiu had already acquired Xingmo sword, Yue Qingyue said sternly, "Go." How could he go in this sort of situation? Shen Qingqiu immediately shook his head and was about to toss Xingmo to Yue Qingyuan when he felt something beneath him falter. It wasn't his legs that had given out. It was the ground. The cave had finally collapsed.